Happy 2020, Matt. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I'm happy to be here.
Holidays are finally over.
They are. Thank
They got
God. It's
long.
back to work.
Christmas and New Year's on a Wednesday is like the
Oh,
biggest production killer in the world.
yeah. I think people started shutting down like the 10th of December in anticipation of starting to not do
Oh,
anything.
it was Thanksgiving. The short window between Thanksgiving and Christmas was like a license to do nothing for 3 weeks.
That's right.
Almost 4 weeks. But
That's
anyway,
right. But not for our intrepid listeners.
so here we are. We're back.
We are back.
All good.
So yeah. So recently something big went down in the aviation aerospace industry.
Well, let's see. A lot of stuff's going down, but Boeing continues to get hammered at every angle, and finally, which I figured was going to happen, but CEO was asked to resign by the board. I think I think they needed a new face of the company and to the FAA, and I think there was just some friction there. And look, I think he's a very capable CEO. I think he was great he did a lot of things for the company, but I think with the Max issue that, a change needed to be made, if for no other reason than a change needed to be made.
Right.
And that's kind of what I tell folks is that, hey, look, even if you're the CEO of Boeing, everything in the world has a shelf life. I think he was there for 5 years. Yeah.
Was he a Boeing lifer before that? I knew
he was
20 or 25 year veteran.
Yeah, he was pretty much a Boeing lifer. I think he came up through the engineering ranks, and obviously did real well. Smart guy. He took him in a lot of good directions. But then all of a sudden now, I think, look, there's a lot of things happening at Boeing, and it comes down to focus. And they're an airplane building company, and they brought the 787 online. And then they brought, the new 777 X online, and then they brought, the Max was coming on, and then they got into the rockets. They were doing the space, vehicles, and now they got Boeing Global Services going, which was a new division started a couple of years ago, and there's a whole lot of dynamics going on in that company. And I think at some point, I honestly think now that the board is probably going to look at all the different things they can. They went this wide. And now I'm wondering if the board, once the Max issue is resolved, if the board doesn't start to shrink it again and say, hey, look, what are we really good at? What are we really focused at?
Yeah, that's interesting. It'd be interesting to see. I picked up a book recently over the last couple of weeks called Ruthless Focus. And it's not a spectacular book, but the message is good. And they give some really good profiles of companies that did exactly that. The next thing, that they find a formula that works. So it starts throwing off some profits, and then guess what? They take those profits and start doing dumb things with it. And all the things sound good until you add them up in aggregate, and they add up to a loss of focus. So any one of those things in isolation might not be bad, but when you add them all together, then you realize we got way unfocused, and then you have to pare down. Of course, jobs are turning to Apple is like the prime example of that. But I want to go back to what you said about everything having a shelf life. Because one of the things that you want to focus on the podcast in 2020 is just how to be a better executive, how to be an executive that stands out, and how to set yourself up for that next opportunity. And that's one of the things that you fight is that mentality of, hey, I'm a Boeing lifer. I've been here for 20 years. Like that, maybe I'll get a promotion, but I'm not going anywhere. Like what's the worst that's going to happen to me? Well, you might get promoted and you might end up not being there anymore, no matter how much of a lifer you are.
Well, it comes down to this. Look, everything, different people in life have different wants, desires, needs, and what makes them happy is, what makes them happy. And look, some people are, not overly career focused. It's a job. It pays the bills. I'll pick on engineers, I'll just pick on an engineer for whatever reason. But maybe I'm an engineer and I got my degree and I'm happy being an engineer in a cube, and I make $120,000, $130,000 a year. And I do it 8 hours a day, and I go home and I fish and I have hobbies or whatever else. That's great. Hey, look, if that's your focus, that's really cool. Other people want to go run companies and, want to do things, but it's understand where you want to be and what you want to be. But, where I start to get nervous is when, I'm seeing companies now, like, they're starting to cut some costs, and they, Gulfstream Aircraft literally took out a whole layer of people, senior managers with 25 years, to 30 years, senior managers and directors, 25 to 30 years with the company. They've got a lot of work left in them, but, now the challenge that they have is, they go to a new company, or they put they put themselves out there. And a lot of times companies are like, hey, look, you've been with these guys for 25, 30 years. Yeah. How well will you adapt to us and our culture?
Yep.
And it's a big question. I mean, it's a legitimate question. It's like, hey, look, these are very capable executives. They reached a plateau, and, there are other people there that are saying, hey, look, can you adapt? And it's it's a very, it's an educated question. So so once again, I tell people, I say, look, everything in the world, whether it's potato chips or food or, your car or whatever, everything in the world has a shelf life. And that, includes, the life of a company, the life of a company. And so,
yep.
Always be networking, always be having conversations, never get complacent, because if your company is sold, acquired, activist investors come in, goes through a cost-cutting measure, gets merged, whatever. I mean, there's a million different, every company's for sale.
Yeah.
Everything in the world is for sale.
That's true. Everything has a shelf life. Yeah. And I think mentally, just the approach to it is, it's so important, because it starts with the mentality of just being flexible,
Yep.
and thinking through and just being aware that those scenarios can happen. Like you said, just being aware of the fact that no matter how established the company feels, no matter how much the culture is comfortable to you, just being mentally prepared for the fact that might not be, you just might not be in the same position a year or two from now. Now, right. There's certain personality types like me where I enjoy that. Not everybody enjoys that. Not everybody needs that as part of their personality, and that's okay. Right. But I can tell you from watching people that they don't enjoy it, it's worse when it gets thrust upon you.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Well, hey, look, it's like this. So I talk to people every day, and I remember when I was in my mid-30s, had my dream job. I thought it was great, loved it. Headhunter called me one day, said, "Hey, you were referred to us by so and so. Would you take a look at this position?" No, I'm in my dream job. I really like what I'm doing. Oh, come on, have the conversation. Just say no. I was like, thanks, no, click. A month later, I got a new boss. New boss was let's just say he and I weren't going to do well together. I'm thinking, well, maybe I should have that conversation.
Yeah.
Conversations are cheap. They're free. There's no obligation. If nothing else, you meet a new friend.
Yep.
But what it does is those conversations allow you to at least see what else in the world is out there. What's happening with other companies, what are relationships I can develop? If you don't have conversations, read or explore. Say, what companies are doing stuff that is really, really cool? If my job were to go away tomorrow, where would I want to go next? What would I want to do next?
Yeah.
Conferences. How many people out there will pay their own way to go to a conference? Like one conference I like to go to is Corporate Jet Investor, or ISTAT, the aircraft trading conference. How many people would literally reach into their pocket for $1,000, pull out $1,000 and say, I'm going to go to this conference. I'm going to pay my own way. I'm going to go network around and see who's out there, see what's going on, or just to learn something.
Yep.
Yeah. That's how you develop yourself as an executive. And that's how you ensure your shelf life is unlimited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely flipped. I think it's taking a while, but the mentality is flipping to where people are taking more responsibility for their own trajectory and realizing things like that, right? So they can't count on the company paying to send them to a conference all the time, especially if you want it for just your own career development reasons.
Right.
And you want to build up your power base and your network of people that you have access to. I think it's a point of pride probably for a lot of people to have their company pay for them to go. And that's sometimes it's just not going to happen. So the question is, what do you do when those opportunities come out? Do you take advantage of them, even if it means coming out of your own pocket? And if you want to get the next executive job at the next up and coming company, they're going to look at things like that. Now, they may have not looked at things like that in the past. I think they are looking at things like that now.
Yeah. Well, you think about for career development, let's just say you're not the person who wants to, just
run a company.
Yeah. Let's just say you're somebody who's kind of caffeinated and, you want to grow and you want to, take it to the next level. I get emails 1 a day, 2 a day, 2, 3 times a week about, hey, the, Global Connected Aircraft Conference, Corporate Jet Investor Europe. What are some other ones? iStat's coming up, iStat Latin America. I mean, then there's, these other leasing conferences that I get. It's all part of my network. And I say, all right, well, who's going to be there? And they say, well, the CEO of this conference is going to be there. Or the CEO of this company is going to be there. Yeah, he might be a good guy to go meet. I'll go hang with him. Have a cup of coffee with him, or, does it cost me some money? Yeah, absolutely. But it's a world where, if you're looking for somebody else to do it for you, you're in trouble. If you're sitting in a company bitching that my boss isn't going to let me go to this conference and pay my way, well, get off your arse, pull your checkbook out, buy a plane ticket, take a couple days, take a day or two vacation, and call it a personal development, holiday. Go meet some people.
That's right.
That's
including you. So hopefully they'll catch you at one of these next events.
That's how you keep your shelf life unlimited. Yeah. And you learn things too.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. How do people connect?
Just call me 910-509-7129. Craig at northstaresg.com. Website's northstaresg.com too. So I'm always around. Call me.
Yep. And then for the podcast, make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you want to leave us a review, Apple Podcasts is the best place to do that. We'd really appreciate it, especially if you really enjoyed a particular guest. So you have some really incredible names, big names, movers and shakers, insiders in the industry. And it's great for us to see those reviews where people go and let us know what guests they really enjoyed and publicly thank them for their time and their contribution, because that makes a difference to the guest. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.